Okay, great, great, great. So what I was saying is this is my first time hosting a tea party. I know this is going to be saved and archived and all those good things. I'm playing around. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm I'm drinking my hibiscus tea from Duba because I went to a spillionaire dinner, and I have my, you see I have my merch here. I have my merch. It's a spill. I don't know if you can see it, but it says spill, and it's a silicone. This is really neat. It's a silicone tea bag, and you add the loose leaf tea to the tea bag. Okay, you all can hear me now. Now I don't know how to add people. I'm waiting on Ryan to get here, but like I said, I feel like I've been rambling. We're going to be talking sinners. If you've seen Ryan Coogler's Sinners, then you already understand. If you have not, then I think he's coming in now. If you haven't seen Sinners, you might want to leave because it's going to be spoilers. Did I do it right?
Hey, there we go. All
Oh,
right.
okay.
All right.
Ryan,
Hello, sister. How are you?
welcome. You see, I was cold, but now I started sweating a little bit because I'm playing around, and this is going to be archived,
Oh
and
my God. Okay, there
you
we go.
look fantastic today, friend. I won't keep you long. So, full disclosure, you all, Ryan is like my brother. So, we talk frequently, and we both were so incredibly, we're both some church kids, and we both
Yes,
were so incredibly moved by
there we
Spill. We
go.
caught up this past Saturday. And how much we spent about what, like almost a little over an
Close to,
hour
yeah.
talking about this film?
Yeah. Really get into the nitty-gritty.
Really getting into the nitty gritty. You just got back home from watching it again, right?
Yeah, just got back in for
Okay,
my
so
second watch.
okay, and I did my second watch on Sunday. I saw it initially on Friday. So let's hop right into things. For those of you who are unaware, Ryan wrote a beautiful piece on medium.com about sinners and the black church, and I just have a few questions. I want to just dive into it. There are themes of ancestral magic, there are themes of ancestral religion.
Yeah.
We have indigenous people, we have passe blanc girls, we
Yeah.
have, it's just, it's a whole
A
bunch of
gumbo,
stuff. But
if you will.
if you will, oh my gosh, which by the way, I'm knee deep into Matriarch, Miss Tina's book.
Yes.
And she, that's
Okay.
another no,
I
because
saw
it's
where you were going with
so
that. I saw where you were going with that.
sisters. I've been on the phone with my mom, like, oh, you have to read this because sisters. But nevertheless, so Ryan,
Yes.
um, so let's start off with one of with what your piece really kind of tackles, which has to do with the church. And I don't think that you positioned in your piece, I don't think you took the stance of like having your faith questioned, but you did mention that, like, in times of fear, you'd call your mom and you all would pray together.
Yeah.
And when Ramek was out there joining in on the Lord's
Oh
Prayer
God.
and violently baptizing Preacher Boy, that did something to you. Talk to us about
Yeah,
that.
it was like growing up in the church, like, and being at a point where, like, there was a point in my life where I was going to church like 5 days out of the week, 5 or 6 days out of the week. And that is regular Sunday service, sometimes multiple service Sundays. That's choir rehearsal, Teams for Christ, vacation Bible, like any number of things, just like church
Uh-huh.
activities. And so that's my background, like that's how I was raised. So much so that like the indoctrination, like the conditioning was like, if there was any point that I was afraid of something, when I think about scary movies as a kid, it's like, all right, well, I would just go to church. Like that would be like my safety, my refuge. And then as I got older and like more mature, it was like, all right, well, anytime I'm going through something, I'll call my mom and have my mom pray over me. If I'm particularly scared about something, I remember I saw Paranormal Activity, which was a movie that actually scared me. I saw Skeleton
Yes.
Key, another movie that actually scared me. There's a theme, and that like the only things that really scare me are like spiritual themed scary movies. And so yeah, I called my mom after. I was like, "Hey babe, I need you to pray down." And it's like I could not sleep or
Mhm.
go to bed until like I had that comfort, because that's what I grew up knowing as like comfort. That's what I grew up like,
Right. Right.
that was like my center. And so watching this movie, and y'all, like I just got out of the theater, like literally rushed from the theater here. Watching that scene where Sammy has gone through this entire terrifying night and he has escaped from Remick twice at this point. He has watched Stack die. Now he is watching Stack attack Smoke. He's seen Annie die. He's seen Mary die. He watched Delta Slim literally sacrifice himself so that he could
Pauline.
Pearline, yep, literally
Oh,
watched
Pearline. Yeah.
everybody that like he's loved, right, die in front of him in a matter of like minutes or hours. And and at this point, Remick had come up to him, and I think like he had like knocked. Yeah, this is when he slapped him, and that's how he got the scars on his cheek. And so at this point, Sammy doesn't have anything else, and he just starts saying the Lord's Prayer. And as he's saying it, right, like this is like his last refuge. Remick joins in, and Remick joins in, and then all of the vampires that have been turned come up and like they join
Yeah.
in, and he's literally holding Sammy and violently baptizing him. That imagery,
Hmm.
Shar, shook me. It shook me because it's such a direct and visceral like call out that like this like the movie like spared no words in saying this is not going to save you, babe. Like you went to the
Yeah.
Bible, I'm right there with you. Like I will finish the scripture for you. And Ramick going into how like the man that stole his father's land gave the Bible to his father, and he hated those
Yeah.
words. Hated that situation, even though they still bring him comfort. And then telling Sammy they didn't save me, and they're not gonna save you. And it was
Yeah. And
go ahead.
yeah, and I know that we talked about my viewpoint with that was and I what I was telling Ryan on Saturday when we were on the phone is this film reminds me a lot of a Beyonce album. What I
Mm,
mean when I say that is she has a specific vision and she puts it out into the world, and we all kind of develop our own thesis around
yeah,
it by taking bits and pieces. And so I looked at that as with Remick in particular, about how sometimes the monsters are in the
there we
church,
go.
within the walls of the church,
Yeah,
right? Sometimes the monsters are reciting the scriptures alongside you. Sometimes the monsters are baptizing you, and then they have a
baby,
congregation that are
baby.
joining in and blindly following them because they're the leader of the
Yep.
flock. They're positioned to be the leader of the flock. Um,
Really quick to add to that, something that I did not notice the first time that I saw this time. In the first, so you everybody remembers like the jump scenes when Sammy first goes into the church at the opening of the movie. They kind of like set the tone, like, oh shit, wasn't expecting that this early.
yeah.
What I noticed about those first three jump scenes, because I think it's like five jump scenes while Sammy is first walking into the church. The first three of those are Sammy talking to his father, and what they cut to are Remick. And I thought that was like really important, like symbolism for it
Mm.
to go from his father to Remick in that very same, like, why is like you were standing in front of your father, this pastor, and why is your mind going there, right? Like, why did Ryan choose to like put those two scenes or to equate like those two specific people when there's like so many other things to like bring up and like share? And to me, it felt right in line with the point that you're making about like it's in the church. Sometimes it's in the church.
Sometimes it's in the church, and Sammy's salvation was in that guitar.
Yeah.
It was in that music. It was not found within those walls. Now, again, it's incredibly nuanced, and we've seen, I don't know if you've seen, but I know that you are on the clock app on the TikTok like me, and there's been so much conversation regarding Black Christians. Oh, I just thought about another point before I go into what we've been seeing on TikTok. Um, on a broader scale, when I zoom out, the ways in which this film is being interrogated and critiqued, and the ways in which Remick joined in and recited that the Lord's Prayer and was going to kill Preacher
Yeah.
Boy. It is it. This film came out at a unique time in history
Hmm.
because I think that Black Christians are going to be
Yep.
confronted with slaying that same monster this year
Yep.
politically, because how do you cling to a particular belief system and double down
Yeah.
on it when the same people that are trying to exterminate you,
Using that exact same Bible, those exact same words.
those exact same words,
Yeah.
and I think that because consciousness is raised a bit and we have access to the internet and broader conversations, a lot of people are going to have to contend with Even Martin Luther King said the most segregated hour in America is Sunday at 11 a.m.
Mhm.
People are really going to have to confront that whole body of Christ notion again. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's been confronted throughout the years, but I just was thinking about that as it pertains to this film. But I wanted to ask you, what were your thoughts? Have you been seeing some of the discourse around um black Christians in this film, and people making the joke saying like, oh, so your spirit told you, what about your spirit thought that this would be a safe space, a movie
Right.
titled Sinners, and vampires and darkness are going to be in it,
Right.
but your spirit don't tell you about nothing else. Like, all of the I haven't seen any of the TikToks. I've seen people reacting to them
Yeah.
because it's been a busy week for black Christians, because I'm sure you saw First Lady
Yeah.
talking about how she was ironing her clothes for her man to go out and cheat.
Mhm.
So it's been an interesting week
Mhm.
for the black Christian population, because
Yeah.
God told her to.
I was
So go
watching,
ahead.
this wasn't on TikTok, this was on Threads, I think, but Candice Marie Bimbo, famed theologian,
Red lip
Red Lit Theology,
theology.
exactly. She was responding to somebody. This was like, I think it was Lecrae. She was responding to Lecrae, and Lecrae was essentially, I guess, kind of like intimating that Ryan Coogler was working through some church hurt through this movie, and just talking about like
That's
how
so
it's
reductive.
so, and that's what she said. And that's what she said. She was like,
I'm like, that's
to
intellectually
reduce it,
dishonest, friend.
absolutely, to reduce it to that, to not engage with or interrogate like the actual like conflicts there, the actual hypocrisy there, and like how real it is to completely ignore like the fact that these are things that people are actually going through today in their relationships with the church. And that is like the biggest, for me, like the biggest takeaway is like, we can have conversations about religion, we can have conversations about spirituality, we can have conversations about the black church. And for all of those conversations, there will be important things around community, around support,
Yeah.
around safety, like safety for your personhood. But we simply cannot have those conversations without talking about subjugation, without talking about misogyny, without talking about homophobia and transphobia, without talking about like all of these things go together. And I think that's what's been missing, or like that's what Black Christians that I have seen have been reluctant to acknowledge about this film.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It requires a degree, going hand in hand with First
Yeah.
Lady. It's almost like it requires a degree of dissociation,
Yeah.
so you don't have critical thought, so you don't
Well,
really.
the TikTok girlies will tell you, like, it is critical thought that will be the undoing of the Black church. And that is why, like, that is how it has been able to survive, is people not thinking critically and not asking questions, or like not making sense of things. And so when they
Yeah,
get on there, like they're asking, like, just like the simple thought of like, if they didn't want Black people to read as slaves and then gave them a Bible, what makes you think that the one that they gave you would be the one that would save you?
they're not going to give you the answer
They're
key to the
not giving you
test.
the answer key to the test, babe. They're not giving you the key to the lock. They're not giving you an escape route, babe. They're giving you the tools to keep you oppressed.
Correct. And you and I even talked about, because we both recently at different times visited the Black Smithsonian
Hmm.
in DC, where, if you all watching, if you have not been, first of all, you might want to
Make it
make that a
quick.
priority. We don't know if they
Make
putting
it
locks on
quick.
the door and about to bulldoze it. But there is a physical copy of the slave Bible in there, and it sent a chill down my spine when I saw that. And you and I have talked about this,
Hmm.
but now I feel like we're doing FaceTime with an audience.
Yeah.
uh it felt like someone poured cold water down my back, because I knew it existed, but to see
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and the cherry picking that took place to make it happen, that the thing is about this
Yep.
big. It ain't even a fraction of the Bible that we
Yep.
know and read today. So I'm curious to know, in what ways did this film, and you kind of already touched on this, but I'm curious to know in what ways did this film challenge and or affirm your belief system.
Ooh, okay. So I can tell you the ways that it affirmed my belief system is that Sammy found a tangible, real to him representation of a savior, and that was music, and that was his connection to ancestors, to shared ancestral knowledge and history through the music. that is something that is like you said, like you can't take that away from us. Like you cannot water that down, you cannot dilute that and feed it back to us. Like it is something that is inherently ours. And Delta Slim Delroy Lindo's character said that's like they gave us the Bible, they did not give us the blues. That is ours. And like that to me was like such a affirmative message in terms of like you'll know it when you feel it. And like
Yeah.
it was like that was the one of like the most, I guess, like galvanizing parts of the film was like watching him stand in that church while his father is telling him to like drop this thing and choose this thing. And the thing that he's telling him to choose was the thing that like did not work. And he's telling him to drop the thing that did work. And like it could not have played out more clearly. So like that for me was affirmative above all else. And the thing that challenged it was, and you and I have talked about this. To me, Black gospel music exists in the space and like does the things that the Black church attempts to do. Right? Like when you listen to
Yeah.
a Hezekiah Walker, when you listen to a Walter Tremaine Hawkins, when you listen to
Richard
Richard
Smallwood.
Smallwood, like though, like the feeling that you get, that is
Yeah.
communion. That is like a direct spiritual connection. Like that is undeniable. And it is
Yeah.
difficult for me to separate that from the Black church. And so that is the thing that like I am forced to challenge and just kind of like wrestle with as I am rethinking like what my own spiritual beliefs are, because like the feelings that I get from like an actual choir in robes and like swaying, like
We talked
that's
about
a
this.
real thing, right? Like that's a
This
real
ain't no
thing.
praise team,
This I
Phaedra.
don't want, okay, I don't want four people at the microphone in the pulpit. I
No,
need
ma'am.
choir stands, I need sopranos, altos, and tenors. I need the full.
Yes.
And like there's just something about that,
And no Hillsong.
baby.
Traditional
Please. And
gospel.
there's a place for that. There's a place for that. That touches some of the
Not
girls.
in my church
But
home.
for me,
As for you and your church
I
home.
need the girls clowning at the top of the choir stand. I need them to be ushered out.
Yes.
Like that is again, like it is just like it's a tangible, undeniable feeling. And it is also something that I cannot separate from the Black church. And so trying to
I need
make sense of
growls,
that.
runs, riffs, and again, not telling too much of my business, but you know this. I have been interrogating and deconstructing my faith for over a year at this point, and gospel music is something I cannot
Sorry.
leave. Like I cannot, like Richard Smallwood is my
Yep.
favorite out of all the men that lead the choirs,
Yep.
all the Kirks and the Hezekiahs. I like them all, but there's something about Richard Smallwood's catalog
Richard Smallwood is Chicago,
that
right? No, who am I
no,
thinking
I
of?
don't think
Who
he.
did the album The Choir Master? You know what I'm talking about? Um,
Let me get on my Googler.
because there's a song on The Choir Master with April Hall and Tamala Mann.
You're talking Ricky
Ricky
Dillard.
Dillard, thank you so
Ricky.
much. If you there's
Yeah.
a you can like the album is phenomenal and the song is phenomenal. But if you go on YouTube and watch that video, I'm so sorry. Like if you needed convincing, it's right there. It's right there.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you for that. You might have to shoot me a text. We're going to be wrapping things up soon, but I'm curious to know because in your piece you also touch on hoodoo and its role in the story. You know, Annie
Yeah,
was my favorite character.
down.
We also talk about much because this is a conversation about religion. Um, as we pointed out on FaceTime, they would have not reached the point of survival that they did without Annie's knowledge.
No.
They would not have known about the garlic, the silver, or creating the steaks without Annie. They wouldn't have known about Hanks,
Yep.
vampires. This would not have existed
Yep.
without that old time religion, as some call
Yep.
it. So talk to me about um how Annie's practice challenged or expanded your own understanding of
Yeah.
traditional African religion.
So first of all, like I am from Texas and my family is all like Texas, Louisiana, Missouri, Arkansas. Like that's like the primary like mix. And so like these are things like I grew up with.
Mhm.
Going to Bayou Classic as a kid, like these are things like I grew up with. Like family is
Now,
there.
why you have to bring that up?
And so it was really it was really comforting and again affirming to see that play out on screen and for it to be positioned in a way that wasn't like the voodoo woman out in the sticks that was like
Ooga booga.
Exactly, that everybody was, like, afraid to, like, engage with. When we meet Annie, first of all, it's with Smoke paying reverence to, like, their dead child, but then we get into the house, and this little baby's going in there, "Hey, Miss Annie, my mama said she need X, Y, and Z," and, like, giving her
Hmm.
money, and Annie was like, "No, make sure that you get this to her, because I don't want her coming in here and playing in my face." Like,
Okay.
it was, like, an understood, like, they're in community, not like the kids are afraid to come around. And that to
Hmm.
me felt much more real and like honest to like how this should be
Yes.
looked at and like how it was treated then than like what we've gotten from Hollywood and from like film and TV present
Hmm.
day. And then to bring it back to the point of like none of this being able to exist without Annie, we can take it back as far as like the Mojo bag keeping Smoke and Stack safe for them to come back to Mississippi, first of all. Then we can look at the fact that after Stack got turned, Stack was already inside. He didn't need to be let back in. He could have turned everybody right then and there. But had it not been for Annie thinking quick and getting the pickled garlic, that was the thing that got him out of there. And it could have, without, I think her name is Grace. Yeah, without Grace losing her
That's
shit.
our Asian friend.
Exactly. Without Grace losing her shit, succumbing to the emotion, they would have been safe conceivably until the morning came, right? But again,
Also, the Mojo bag protected, I don't
Smoke
know the
again.
twins
Yep,
apart,
protected
but
Smoke
yeah,
again from Stack. And it was just like, I want to say that's how Smoke got control of the situation again to be able to kill Stack. But again, like seeing his own face, seeing his brother, knowing what their relationship was, like that's what led to like the promise. But like all of like them having the garlic, them having the wooden stakes, the silver, all of that knowledge came from Annie, and it came from Annie in that moment. I don't know what everybody else knew about these kinds of supernatural dealings. We're led to believe in the movie that like Annie held this knowledge, and like that was intentional. Like that was intentional.
yeah. And they kept, I noticed that because Ryan, again, I told you we're doing FaceTime with an audience. So my people is down from them areas too. And I noticed that when I rewatched it on Sunday, that Annie was mocked twice,
Mm,
right? Once was by the twin that's her baby daddy. That was her baby
yes.
daddy. When he first goes, he's like, "Oh, this
Oh, yep.
isn't real." And then of course, this the most terrifying part when Cornbread turns
Baby.
and they're not inviting him back in, and he's berating and dismissing her religious practice
Yeah.
because of course the objective is to get in there because he's
Right.
hungry,
Right.
um what is I just lost my train of thought, but what I find interesting is as these conversations unfold around religion and around, because now the hype is kind of dying
Yeah.
down, so now people aren't saying it's 100 out of 10. People are like, oh, I went and saw that. That's I give it a solid 6.5. One of my friends who I saw it with hated the final scene where that took place in 1992 in Chicago. Hated that
Why?
scene. They felt that ruined the movie. He did not go into detail. Which by the way, shout out to Buddy Guy. I had no idea that was
Mm,
him. I didn't know what he looked like, but of course, I'm familiar with Shauna. Shout out to
yep.
Chicago DTP.
Yep.
I wanna
Lick, 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 lick.
lick you from you.
First lady of DTP,
And I
baby.
don't know why they didn't. Shauna looks a little vampiric.
She could have
They
ate.
could
No
have put
shade.
her
She could
in
have
the
ate.
film.
The voice,
She
the
would have
look, she could
ate.
have ate. Absolutely. Yeah.
She would have ate. Um, any closing thoughts before we get up out of here? I feel like we touched on the
Yeah.
hallmark of what I wanted this conversation to be.
I want to get back. Like, I want to take it to. Okay, so actually, I want to take it to that scene, that final scene, and then you and I
Yeah.
talked about this. But the first time I saw it, I did not say till the final scene. And you told me like it wasn't something that was like particularly like breaking for the
Oh
movie,
yes, yes,
but
yes,
I
yes,
did
yes,
stay
yes.
for it. So the first like
You
mid.
told me not to ruin it
Yes.
for you.
The first mid-credit scene, the first mid-credit scene where Stack and Mary go see Sammy in
1992
1992 in
Chicago.
Chicago, like I so much of that, first of all, the fact that like up until they have the conversation, Stack and Mary walking in to me was still just as scary as when they was in that barn. Like I did not know which direction it was gonna go. I'm like, here's this old ass man, y'all. Please leave him alone. Like, are y'all finna turn? Like, I did
And
not
said,
know. Like how, the
you ain't got
snitch.
much
Oh
time
my
left.
god. Like chilling, right? But when when Stack acknowledged that, like, my brother made me promise to let you live out your life, and seeing that Stack kept that promise, and for all we know, will continue to keep that promise, like, said so much to me about their brotherhood, about their relationship. This is also when we get to see that, like, Stack and Mary finally got to have the life that they wanted, that they couldn't have when they were both alive,
Yeah.
and have
I didn't think about that. I
yeah.
didn't think about that. When that argument at the juke
Bingo,
joint, when
exactly.
she was
We
like, "I
can't
didn't want this."
exactly. He was like, "You got your white man, you got a farm, go be with him." She was like, "I didn't want to be white. I wanted to be with you." And he was like, "I wanted to keep you safe, and that was never going to be here. That was never going to be with me." And so it was
Yeah.
really cool to see like how that played, like what worked for them played up against what worked for Smoke and Annie. And like Annie was like, "No, baby, get me out of here. Like my baby's waiting for me. She's waiting for you." And then
My God.
We see Annie and the baby show up for Elijah's
Yes.
transition, not Smoke, Elijah's transition. And like that was so beautiful to me. Like we talked about this, but it for me harkened back to Black Panther 2 and just like that funeral scene and like
Yeah.
how visceral imagery that was. And so I love like seeing like the juxtaposition of like what worked for them and like what worked for Stack and Mary, further playing into like how different they are as twins that we got throughout the whole movie. But the pièce de résistance of this was Sammy saying,
Mhm.
"I wake up once a week, paralyzed
Oh,
from fear from that night, but also, and I cannot separate this from that, before the sun went down, that was the best day of my life. I felt
my
free."
God.
And Stack said, "That was the last time I saw my brother. That was the last time I saw the sun. We were free in that moment." And I don't like it's so important to have that. It's like, yes, we saw that Sammy made it out. Yes, we saw that he was we hope was going to be okay, right? Because like the last that we see of young Sammy is him driving off into the sunset or to the sunrise rather. We are led to assume that he's okay, but we get to see not only that he's okay and that he's had like this long successful life, but that it is a really difficult thing, him wrestling with like the good and the bad of that night. And like that to me was like
Yeah.
a really really important message, and like I love that we got that. The
And it also showcases just the terrifying nature, right,
hmm
of all that can happen in a
oh
day.
god, they packed it.
All that can happen
They
in there's
packed
so
it in
much that can
24
happen in
hours.
a day.
Your life will change, literally. Your life will change in a day.
Yeah.
And then that very last scene, oh, we doing spoilers because we already told y'all to get out if you haven't seen it.
Oh yeah,
But like
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
very last scene is just him in the church singing This Little Light of Mine. And like one could surmise that, like, because it was spirited, right? Like it was as if he caught the Holy Ghost, which is like really important
Yeah.
imagery. But like prior to like out like context outside of this movie, This Little Light of Mine is like famous black spiritual hymn, famous black song. It's what you learn as a
Yes.
kid, right? I'm gonna let it shine. And like that has really, really deep roots in the Black community for what it meant for like our ancestors. But it takes on
Yeah.
a much different meaning in the context of vampires, and that is what saved Sammy, right? Like he made it to the light, but he was also the light. It was the thing that they were chasing after to get from him, and it was also the thing that saved him, both literally and figuratively.
My God.
And we got that just of him in again in the church. This goes further into like the things that you have to wrestle with, and that like this happened in the church, and it was like it is to my point like
And how many of us have experienced getting our light dimmed or stolen
yeah,
within the walls of the
within the
church
walls
as
of the church,
well?
like it's you can't separate it, you can't like these things live
Yeah.
hand in hand, like, and I think like it's so simple, it's so minimalist, and it communicates exactly what it needs to communicate, like
I just thought about one other point that we just have to talk
give it to
about
me.
because Sunday, I was like, "Am I hormonal?" When I went and watched this, because it was not planned. I was out with friends on Easter Sunday, and there were three. It was six of us, and three people had not seen Sinners yet. So we were like, "Let's just go." When I tell you, we talked about Delroy Lindo's
Yeah.
character in the and how it felt
Oh,
familial.
I know we about to go
That
go ahead,
that's
go ahead.
that's the best part. Um, for some reason, on Sunday night,
Mm-hmm.
when we got to the chain
Yep.
gang scene,
Yep.
I lost
Yep.
it. I lost it. I literally, but he didn't even tell the story yet.
Did not even.
He didn't even tell the story about what happened to his friend yet. And
Yeah.
I was in the theater with a wet
Weeping.
face because it's something about that imagery. And I talked to my mom about this because she went and saw it Tuesday, and she brought up the movie Life with Eddie
Yes.
Murphy
Yes.
and Martin Lawrence. And even like those, because Life is one of those films that I said that I always say makes me cry just as much as it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Like it's weird the way that Life is, because literally I sob,
Yep.
but I'm also hollering, especially when they start fading away one by one. As the oh my god, I lose it every
Yeah.
time. The gay character
Yeah.
by Miguel Nunez, and choosing death over imprisonment while running into the field.
Yeah.
Just so when Delroy Lindo's character tells them to keep their heads up,
Yeah.
you brought up on Saturday before the car could even get down the road, they're shooting, scaring him off,
Yep.
and then telling the story. And I'm getting moved again thinking
Baby,
about it and not
chills.
being able to finish it.
Yeah. It's not just him not being able to finish it, it's like how he expressed emotion. It's like the way
Exactly.
that like the emotion came to him. He didn't just bust out crying. He couldn't have. Like he's been
Yeah.
conditioned to not do that. He could not have yelled because like that would have been life or death for him. Like that would have been spelled danger for him. Just like them acknowledging him passing by spelled danger for them. Like he had to
Yeah.
just go into song because like that was the only thing that was safe. And watching him just kind of like temper that emotion with song. And both
Hmm.
of them look
Hmm.
back, like Stack looked back at Sammy was like, pull the guitar out right now. Like
Boy,
get on it right now.
yeah.
Like that, like, oh my God, it rips me apart. Because like
Because
go ahead.
it speaks to his journey and his themes and the things that he said,
Yeah,
but also how music is, I mean, music is black
yeah,
culture, but black American culture, our
yep,
genres and the things that we have contributed to this landscape and to this pop culture zeitgeist and to this country, it just speaks to how music and us, we go hand in hand. I even, when I was watching it, the way he laughed when he was at the train station when he was moving his knees,
yes.
I was like,
This
this
is
feels so
family.
black.
It's
This feels so
family. I have
yeah.
seen Delta Slim
I have
with
seen
a
this.
plate of beans and a hot link at the
Yes.
picnic table. Like I've seen him. Like I've sat next to him. I've watched the bone stamp on. Like I know this man, and like
Someone says that scene was unscripted.
I believe it.
Me
Absolutely, I
too. Me
believe
too.
it.
Me too.
Um,
But go ahead with what you were saying.
no, it is
Sorry.
just it was so familiar, and I love Delroy Lindo in general. I did not know that he was going
Yeah.
to be in this movie, so when he popped up, it was just like, yeah, and he tore everything that he was in. He tore like everybody was clocked in this movie, and I loved it. One thing that I want to
He was hilarious and the drunk, but he was also a big part of the heart of the film, I
absolutely,
feel.
absolutely. Um, There's one thing that I want to we talked about this. I saw it with a friend and they called out to me. Um, and this is like I am conflicted about my feelings about less so, but like I think it was like a relevant call out. It did not necessarily change anything in the movie for me. But one of the things that they noted was that like in the larger like dance scene and like the famed juke joint scene, there
Yes,
was
yes,
not
yes.
any queer representation by way of at least like ballroom. And we
Yes.
saw so many different representations of blackness, of Asian culture, of indigenous culture, and for
Yes.
ballroom to be as integral to black culture at this point and as integral to pop culture, like a legitimate contribution, like it felt like a miss. And I can absolutely understand where they were coming from. This is not a place where I feel like I was missing that, but I do understand someone like seeing it and feeling like that was left
Now,
out. Go ahead.
what's funny is I'm glad you brought this up, because when I saw it Friday and then we spoke on Saturday about it, my initial sentiment was a little bit of pushback. Like, okay, well, we also
Yeah.
twerking, it's not, it wasn't that big a deal. But by the time we were done with our conversation, I was fully agreeing with you. When I saw it
Yeah.
Sunday, I felt it.
Yeah.
I was like, that is a whole, that is missing. Because
Yeah.
we circling the block
Yeah.
looking at West African dance like the erasure felt blatant the second time that I
Yeah.
watched it. And what's funny is when I was leaving out of the theater and going down the steps, I turned to my friends and I said, I talked to Ryan, and that was one of the critiques. And there were people that were still seated in the theater that agreed with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was missing. That was missing. And so it's like, that's part of a larger conversation, but that would have, first of all, the Christians would have lost their
Thank
mind.
you. I was
I was
hoping you
like,
were gonna say it. Yeah.
that would have disqualified
Yeah.
the
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, did it feel like a miss to me? Absolutely. Do I feel like it's like this is a really crude example, but to me, it felt like when and try as she might to like avoid this, it still happened. But when Beyonce chose not to sing live at the inauguration, at Barack Obama's inauguration, and like her reasoning for it being like, this was a moment that was so much bigger than me. And had anything gone wrong, had anything gone like
Mhm.
particularly right, because of like by nature of like who I am and like my presence in this thing, that would have detracted from like the larger moment. And I wasn't interested in that. Y'all know I can sing
That would have
live.
been what was
Y'all know I
trending.
can sing live, baby.
Yeah.
You know I have it.
It's my
It's
voice
my
that I'm
it's
singing
my
to.
voice. So like I was much focused on the enormity of this moment than I was from detracting from it, even
Yeah.
if like you were looking at me being me as a detraction. And that is such a double-edged sword, but that's where I stand in terms of like my feelings about the inclusion or the erasure of like black queerness from that particular scene. But
Because you know the girls was down to the juke
you
joint.
know, and we talked about this, like it putting in like a Lafayette character from like True Blood, it would have made absolute sense. They would have been in the kitchen
Because
with,
there were plenty of
would have been down there.
Lafayettes running around the South.
Absolutely.
Still are.
Absolutely.
Still are.
Like to see like Smoke and Stack like just like come up behind them if anybody was giving them like wayward eyes would have done something to me, sister. Would have done like just to
Yeah.
see like that protection from them would have done something to, but I got so much from this film. It is like it is a thing where we are making incremental progress. And I am so appreciative of like what this film did, what this film said, that like I'm okay with what we got. I am genuinely okay with what we
Yeah.
got. And one thing that I noticed this time that I did not notice the last time, and you can take this as you can interpret this how you want, but there's a scene. This is when Stack and Annie are behind the bar, and Homeboy comes up and he's like, "Y'all some highfalutin niggas, or y'all some fancy niggas, something like that," and pay with wooden
Oh, when he
nickels.
played with the plantation
Yes,
nickels.
exactly. And Smoke took them to the back and was like, I'm here to make money. And like they explain to Smoke why they need to let them exist in this way, which was so important. Which was so like these niggas are giving you all that they have. They're giving you all that they have.
Yeah.
And if you want them to come back, if you want to actually,
For some corn
baby,
liquor.
please cool it. What Smoke said to Stack was this is like they did a quick cut and then went back to them in that back room. Smoke said to Stack, he was like, um, when you were selling ass in Chicago, would you let a John pay you in a promissory note? I didn't hear that for the first time. And Stack responded,
Really?
he said, I wasn't selling ass in Mississippi though. And I was like, now what? Bitch, that's the
Oh.
backstory I need to hear.
You know, I was so distracted during that. Like, I literally, when the first time I saw it Friday, the person I was with leaned in and was like, "Oh, are one of the brothers?"
Hello? How
What
you
you
doing?
doing? Um,
I was
shout out to
like,
my auntie, free Wendy, free Wendy.
I was like, now,
But
bitch, how did I miss that? Stack was game for pay down to down to Boys Town.
but see, listen, that could also be interpreted as him pimping women out.
Fair, actually. I had well,
Because
because
I
he's
missed. I
saying
mean, we all missed. Yeah,
no. You're right. Because like when I hear selling ass, I only think of like the person that's selling
you
ass,
think literally,
literally selling ass,
literally.
not like the purveyor of the ass being sold. so,
Right, right, right.
so that is most likely what it is because he did say when he was trying to get in, when he was trying to get back in, he was like, "Y'all can keep this pimping out here." And that is something that did stick out to me. So like that is most likely what it was. But I'm going to
Yeah.
choose to believe that Stack was out here throwing ass down in Boys Town.
Yeah, I mean, how you doing? Just like I miss Mount Bayou the first time.
Oh
Like there
yeah.
is someone, as someone whose family is from Mississippi and Louisiana, who was born and raised in Chicago. My mother's first generation in Chicago, so my mom's Southern Belle down, right? Um, I was like, there's so many different ties there. Like my mom's family was in northern Mississippi. My mother was in the Mississippi Delta, and Mount Bayou is where she was born.
Yeah.
So I was like, girl, when you see this movie, you're going to be, and how they said Chicago ain't nothing but Mississippi with tall buildings.
Yeah.
And there's a famous. I grew up hearing Chicago. Some ain't nothing but Mississippi niggas in
Yep.
coats. I believe that's what it said.
Really quick, I saw
So
this comment. I didn't, yeah, I'm so sorry. I've been missing the comments while they were scrolling.
I know I've been trying to catch them
Ange
all.
on the Rocks said, Stack honoring that promise felt unrealistic to me. Only time demons are negotiating are when you're losing on both ends, in my opinion. You are absolutely right. However, the only pushback that I have for you on this is it was really important to note that when Smoke killed Annie to keep her from turning, that was the singular, that was the light switch moment that broke Stack and Mary out of like the larger hive mind.
Yeah, they were losing their
That was the
minds
one thing.
when
And I think it was important, that moment, right, was important to show like that there are some things that like transcend, and love being one of them. I'm sorry, Annie had already defended me. Annie had already defended Mary and said that she was family. And we already
yeah.
know how Mary and Stack felt about each other. And we know how Stack feels about his brother Smoke. And by way, knowing how Smoke feels about Annie, it makes sense to me that that would be a catalyst again, like that transcends the veil, like that love goes beyond life and death, baby, like it is the
Wow.
unifying thing. So like that, had it not been for that scene, and I would have agreed with you, but I think that scene was important for us to see that like that was the more important thing.
And not to get too deep, but those are the two optics that I gathered the second time that I watched it was that point when Annie steps, she puts her hand up and says she
Boom.
family. And I thought about the optics of how so many times, more times than not, how darker skinned black women are placed in that position, shielding, guiding, and protecting everybody, but also in particular lighter skinned black women.
Yeah.
And then I, of course, there were so many funny moments sprinkled in here, like Delroy Lindo. Oh, he busy,
Oh
huh?
my
You know,
god.
when he
When Smoke
but
stacked
also I
shot them shot the two boys that was trying to steal from him, and got up and was like, "You shot me, nigga."
nigga, I need help.
It was so black, y'all. It's so black.
But I also thought about the white woman, the Klansman's wife,
Yeah.
when because they kept talking about how the Klan doesn't exist. And she said something along the lines of how they can form a clan of love. I remember her
Yes.
hands, like she was like
Yes.
flower child. And I was like, now is this one line, this one scene, one of those in this essay I will about how white
Absolutely.
women,
And I'm taking it as such. I'm so sorry.
let me take a
I'm
swallow,
taking it
how
as
white
such.
women
Yeah. Absolutely, babe. Absolutely.
I
That, because
don't even have to finish the
it
sentence.
came right after Remick, like when they accused Remick of being in the can, he was like playing, and he was like, "Whoa, hold on, we're about love and
I believe in
equality."
equality.
And then she immediately goes into like raising her hands, and it felt so pink pussy hats to me, baby. Like,
But I still have been giggling because Remick's sales pitch was one hell of a
yeah,
sales pitch. I'm not gonna
yeah,
even front. When he was at the
yeah,
door and they were trying to get in and he was telling them, if you step outside, there will be no more
yeah,
persecution, no more pain, no more attack on your religious institutions and where you have faith,
yep.
school, family. None of that exists anymore. If you step out, I said that's one hell of a sales pitch. I'm
One
thinking
hell
in the
of a
mind frame of the
That's what I was just
1932
about to say.
Mississippi
That's
Delta.
one hell of a sales pitch today. Imagine I get off the cotton fields and somebody comes up to me and tells me this, and I'm seeing it.
Right,
And I'm seeing it.
right.
I don't know, babes. I don't even really like garlic
Yeah.
like that. Like, But no, I
Which, oh yeah, I also thought Perlene.
yeah.
I thought Perlene might have been. My mom brought up when Perlene performed and how she was dancing and moving,
Yeah.
and then her outward rejection. It's like, given the circumstance, girl, if you don't eat this motherfucking, I don't like liver, but if I was in that circumstance, I don't even think I'd be able to taste the
I'm so
liver.
sorry. It's
I'd
life or
be
death,
so
baby.
busy trying
It's
to
life
get
or
it in
death.
my
And
bloodstream.
shout out to Mama Says So, because that scene where Pearline was gyrating and shaking on the floor was also the scene, like they were putting that up against when Mary was turning stack. And like that was intentional. Because then we get to the scene where
Mm.
like she's reluctant to try. Like that would have been the gag of gags. That would have been the gag of gags. I
Perlene, where your husband?
baby, bring him out. What happened? Yeah, I am going to go see it again. I'm going to Dallas this weekend. I saw somebody check in from Shreveport. Shout out to y'all. And Texas. Hey y'all. Hey cousins. Um,
Oh, I used to do Thanksgivings in Shreveport,
down.
as they call it.
But yeah, I'm gonna go. So I saw it here in Austin at Barton, which is just like regular IMAX, and I saw it today at both museum, which is like 1:43 aspect ratio, and then I'm going to Dallas next weekend to see it in full 70 millimeter, and that might be my last time if I don't see it again in New York next month. So yeah, I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
I think it's so wonderfully done. Everybody, I've also been seeing conversations about how this movie captured intimacy in a way with
Mm,
no nudity,
mm.
captured a level of, they were like, Ryan Coogler, I know what
Yeah,
you are.
yeah. Yeah, they did intimacy
So,
so well. Like, yeah. Oh,
your body ain't forget me.
yeah.
I can't wait to use that
And
line.
like, was that Creole? I'm assuming that was Creole or like, yeah, like,
She was
oh
speaking.
God. Yeah, it was so good.
That's what she was speaking. Well, I think I got all my points out, I believe. What a beautiful film visually. I cannot get over those beautiful sunny days
Yeah,
and miles of cotton fields. It's something about those drone shots that just really was tearing me up.
yeah,
I think because I know that like we were out like our ancestors. It's a reminder also. It's a testament to whatever lies in front of
yeah,
us, right? Like we come from amazing people, and I think that the way that Ryan did this film is the additional comedy is that it's filmed in a way in which it's like a true story.
mm-hmm,
Like to have Buddy Guy at the end and
mm-hmm,
like it looks like it's based on a true
yeah,
story the way it's filmed, and so
yeah.
um I didn't know what to expect. Oh, and it also was so apparent that Jonathan Majors was supposed to be in
And
this
you
film.
can't convince me otherwise. I'm so sorry. You can't
Yeah,
convince me otherwise.
yeah.
Somebody, no, actually, I'm not gonna bring that up. Never mind.
Is that for
That's
FaceTime?
gonna be Patreon content. That's behind the paywall.
Well, with that being said, Ryan, thank you for carving out time. This is you broke my spilled cherry. This is
Shout out
my
to
first
that.
time doing one of these. I'm probably going to do them more
This was
frequently.
great.
I like it over
And I
here,
love
and
that
it's better than
the
meta.
comments, like y'all was actually in the comments saying some shit. Like shout out to y'all being a part of the conversation with us.
Yeah, I deeply appreciate it. Like I said, I might. Oh, Winston Duke would have been good. There's so many
Hey,
black actors that would have been good in
oh,
this.
Winston. First of all, I forget the actor that plays Cornbread's name. I don't want to take anything away from him.
His name is Omar something,
Omar,
I think.
terrifying, baby. Like that transition, like when Omar, like when Cornbread turned, terrifying.
With them big
Oh my God.
contacts.
You know who else would have ate it? Winston Duke. I could see Winston Duke and Cornbread Skit. Like he would
Omar
have
Miller,
ate.
yeah.
But Omar Miller, Omar Williams, Omar, when he turned, baby. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was scary. And I've been also telling people if you can handle True Blood, because you mentioned Lafayette
yeah,
earlier, if you can handle HBO's True Blood, you can handle this film. Because
yeah.
I'm not even a scary movie girl. And True Blood was one of my favorite shows. Even though it jumped the shark at one point, it was one of
Yeah,
my favorite shows.
yeah,
But I hope to see more diversity and representation because queer and trans people have been here since the beginning of time. And there are certain queer and trans people who couldn't assimilate even if they tried, and those were the people that were on the forefront of change. Those were the people that were on the forefront of a lot of these conversations. And so beautiful film, and it felt like I said, I didn't know what to
yeah,
expect, but I did not expect to be talking about it like
yeah.
this. Like it Something has
If
changed
it
within me. Like it's so good.
it's like I this is all I wanted to talk about all week. I know we got to jump. I'm just gonna say, Terrence. Yes, that is a point worth discussing. The respectability politics after he turned.
Oh
We got to
yes,
say that for
when
part
he
two because
turned.
absolutely,
When they said, "What are we supposed to do? What are
yeah,
we supposed to?" And respectability politics is what kept people out of Annie's
yeah,
house. Um, instead of because a lot of hoodoo, the woman that was her name is Dr. Yvonne, I believe Shiru
mm,
or Shiro. She was the hoodoo correspondent for this film, and I just watched an interview that she did from a while back, and um, and it talks about how I knew voodoo had a lot to do with
yeah,
Catholicism, right? They just renamed things under the saint's name so they could, practice in peace.
yeah,
But hoodoo has a lot to do with Christianity, and so it's and every black person has
yeah,
some who they don't say it, but that whole splitting the pole, sweeping over my feet, salt over the shoulder, all these little
yeah,
superstitions that we carry. That's all. One could even argue. I don't want to open a can of worms. One could even argue catching the Holy Ghost,
yes,
and
yes.
all them drums and you running and screaming around the
Burning the
church,
cut
speaking
hair.
in
Yep,
tongues.
exactly. Yep. If y'all haven't
Um,
seen,
mm,
to continue Shar's point, a film that really, really digs into it is Skeleton Key. Like Skeleton Key does a really great job.
which did not scare me. But
Oh,
I think because I'm such a fan of Black Southern Gothic
baby,
themes,
tears me up,
like Skeleton Key did not scare me.
tears me up to this day. Y'all are bringing up so much that I want to talk about, but I we just got to do a part
We're
two.
we're going to go, but what I will say about the Skeleton Key, something that I have kept with me since the first time that I saw it, is it doesn't work if you don't
There it
believe.
is.
That applies to any. That's the perfect way to end
Yeah,
this because that it applies to anything,
yeah,
any belief system, whether that be Christianity, hoodoo, whatever. It does not work if you don't
yeah.
believe. And when her faith wavered, that's when that mirror crashed into her and they
And
swapped
and that was
bodies.
it. That was all she wrote, baby.
They swapped bodies. So Ryan, thank you for joining me. I deeply appreciate this. Love you down. I'm glad we
Absolutely.
were able to squeeze this
Yeah.
in. And I know that you're about to do some self-care. So I'll talk to you late. I'll talk to you Friday. So enjoy the rest of your
Love
day.
you. Bye, y'all. Thank y'all so much.
Love you. Bye, y'all. Thanks for watching. I don't know how to get out of
Same.
here.
Other
I don't know how to get up out of here. Okay. All right. Bye, y'all. How do I end this? How do I end this? Is it here? Oh, I just took a picture. Oh my God. Is it here? No, that brings it down. Oh, here we go. Bye, y'all.